I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I stared into the mirror again, trying to understand what had just happened. Had I really seen myself standing behind me? Or was my mind finally breaking apart? Caroline watched me from the corner of the room, her eyes sharp, studying every move I made. She was smiling that fake, sweet smile, the one that now sent chills down my spine. "Are you okay, Isabella?" she asked softly, as if she cared. But I knew better now. Her kindness was a mask, and I was the fool who had worn it around my neck like a necklace. I had to be smart. I couldn't let her know that I was on to her. Not yet. So I nodded. "I'm fine," I lied. But inside, I was screaming. That night, after pretending to go to sleep, I sat quietly in my bed, watching the clock tick past midnight. The house was silent. Too silent. I waited, heart pounding, until I heard it. The soft creak of footsteps outside my door. I froze. The footsteps didn't pass by. They stopped right outside my room. I sat up slowly, barely breathing. And then, the door handle twitched. Once. Twice. Like someone was trying to open it silently. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Then, suddenly, the handle turned fully, and the door opened a crack. I saw an eye staring at me through the gap. It wasn't Mama. It wasn't a stranger. It was Caroline. She stood there for a long moment, just watching me, her face half lit by the dim light from the hallway. There was no sweetness in her expression anymore. Only pure, raw hatred. Then, without a word, she closed the door again and disappeared down the hallway. I sat there for what felt like forever, my body frozen in fear. What did she want from me? Why was she doing this? The next morning, everything seemed normal again. Mama cooked pancakes. Caroline watered the flowers outside. But I couldn't pretend anymore. I needed help. I decided to tell Mama everything. The mirror. The strange whispers. The old notebook I found in Caroline's chest. Mama listened quietly, her face unreadable. When I finished, she gave a small, tight smile. "Isabella," she said gently, touching my hair, "you're tired. You've been through a lot. You're imagining things." My heart broke right there. She didn't believe me. She thought I was crazy. And worst of all, Caroline was standing behind her, sipping her tea, her eyes locked on mine. Smiling. That evening, when Mama left to run some errands, Caroline came into my room without knocking. She sat on the edge of my bed, acting like nothing was wrong. "You know," she said casually, playing with the hem of my blanket, "your mother loves me like a sister. She would never believe anything bad about me. Ever." I stared at her, too scared to speak. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "No matter what you do, no matter how much you scream, no one will listen to you. You belong to me now, Isabella. Your beauty, your spirit, your life. All mine." I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I couldn't move. It was like an invisible chain wrapped around my body. Later that night, I made a decision. I couldn't fight her alone. I had to find someone, anyone, who could help me. That's when I remembered something. An old story my grandmother once told me when I was a child. If someone steals your reflection, you must find the first mirror that saw it happen. Only then could you break their power. My mind raced. The first mirror. The mirror in my room. The one I had stared into when my face first twisted. If I could find a way to destroy it, maybe, just maybe, I could free myself from whatever curse Caroline had placed on me. But as I crept toward the mirror that night, hammer in hand, ready to smash it into 1,000 pieces, I didn't see my own face staring back at me. I saw Caroline's, grinning wide, holding a knife. The night was suffocatingly quiet. I stood there, trembling, staring at the mirror that had tormented me for weeks. It was the only thing left that could help me understand the twisted game Caroline was playing. I raised the hammer, my hands shaking as I gripped it tightly. I had to destroy this mirror. It was the key. The one thing that could break Caroline's control over me. With a breath, I swung the hammer, aiming for the glass. Crash! The sound was deafening, but when the dust settled, the mirror was still standing, perfectly intact. My heart raced. I blinked, stepping back. Had I missed? Or had something more sinister happened? But there it was again, Caroline's face, grinning back at me through the glass, her lips twisted in a mockery of a smile. She wasn't just in my mind anymore. She wasn't just hiding behind my reflection. She was everywhere. "You can't escape me, Isabella," her voice echoed, as clear as day, but this time, it was inside my head. I felt the words sink into my skull, filling every crevice of my mind. She had control over me. I wanted to scream. But no sound came out. I couldn't stop shaking. What was happening to me? Why was I so powerless? I couldn't let it end like this. I had to fight. I had to find a way to break free. But Caroline's words, they kept haunting me. I couldn't escape. I grabbed the hammer again, my pulse quickening, and slammed it into the mirror with all my strength. Crash! This time, the glass shattered into pieces, falling to the floor in a chaotic mess of sharp edges. I could barely see through the glass shards scattered on the floor, but one thing was clear, Caroline wasn't there anymore. For a moment, I felt a strange relief. The curse was broken. I had won. But then I heard the sound. A soft, eerie giggle. I turned around, my breath caught in my throat. And there she was. Caroline. Standing in the doorway, her smile still wide and cold, like she knew everything. "Did you think destroying the mirror would set you free?" she asked, her voice soft, almost teasing. I backed away, my heart thumping loudly in my chest. "What do you want from me?" Her grin only widened. "I don't want your beauty, Isabella. I never did." Her words sent a chill through me. "I want your soul." I froze. My soul? I couldn't understand. What did she mean? But then, something in the back of my mind clicked. The notebook. The one I had found in her chest. The words from the first page. "She is the key. I must have her." She had been planning this all along. Caroline didn't want my face. She didn't want my beauty. She wanted to take everything I had. My life. My spirit. My soul. It was all a lie. Everything had been a lie. I didn't know what to do. I was trapped in this house, with no way to escape. Every time I thought I was close to freedom, she pulled me back. "You're not leaving," Caroline whispered, stepping forward. "Not until I've taken everything from you." I stumbled back, but she was fast, her hand wrapping around my wrist, holding me in place. Her grip was ice cold, almost like it was draining the very warmth from my body. And then, she whispered something that froze me completely. "This is just the beginning, Isabella. You won't be able to hide from me anymore." Suddenly, everything changed. I was no longer in the room. I was somewhere else. Somewhere dark. A place of shadows and whispers. And there, standing in the middle of the darkness, was Caroline. But she wasn't alone. In front of her was a figure, a man. Tall, dark, and shrouded in mystery. He stood silently, watching me. And for the first time in all this madness, I felt fear like I had never felt before. Caroline spoke to him in a language I didn't understand. Her words were low, but they were filled with power. "It's almost time. The final piece is in place. She has no idea what's coming. The man nodded, but his eyes, they weren't human. They were dark and hollow, like something unnatural. Then, just like that, I was back in my room, on my knees, staring at the broken mirror, surrounded by shards of glass. But I felt different. Something had changed. As I looked at the broken glass, one piece began to glow. It pulsed with a soft, eerie light. I reached for it, trembling, and as my fingers touched the shard, I felt a coldness crawl up my arm. And then, my reflection wasn't my own anymore. As I stood there, staring at the broken shard on the floor, I felt a weight lift from my heart. It was over. The dark presence that had haunted me for years was gone. Caroline collapsed by the door, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. For the first time, she didn't look like the powerful, smiling woman who pretended to love us. She looked broken. Mama moved closer to me, holding my hand tightly. She said nothing, but I could feel her heart beating fast, like mine. We both knew, the time for the truth had come. Caroline raised her head slowly. Her face was soaked with tears. She didn't look at Mama. She didn't look at me. She just stared into the emptiness of the room. "I'm sorry," she croaked, her voice barely a whisper. No one said anything. The silence pressed heavily against the walls. "I'm sorry for what I did to you, Isabella," she continued, her body trembling. "I wasn't supposed to hurt you. I didn't plan it, but the bitterness inside me grew stronger than I could control." Mama's face tightened. "Why, Caroline?" she asked softly. "What did we ever do to you?" Caroline covered her face with her hands. For a long time, she couldn't speak. Then finally, brokenly, she spoke. "Years ago, before you got married, Sophie," she said to Mama, "we were both in love with the same man." She paused, swallowing hard. "His name was Daniel." Mama's hand stiffened in mine. "Daniel chose you, Sophie. He loved you, not me. I watched you get married to him. I watched you build the life I had dreamed of. I smiled, I clapped at your wedding, but inside, something in me died that day." Caroline's voice broke again. "I tried to move on. I married someone else. I smiled, I raised my own family. But deep inside, I hated you. I hated that you had the life I thought should have been mine." She turned her tear-stained face to me now. "When I saw Isabella grow up, beautiful, full of life, admired by everyone, that old bitterness woke up again. I told myself I didn't want to hurt her. But envy is a terrible poison. It blinds you. It changes you." Her shoulders shook as she cried harder. I thought, if I could ruin her beauty, her happiness, maybe it would heal the bitterness in my heart. But it didn't. It only destroyed me more. The room was so silent, I could hear my own heart beating. I stared at Caroline, this woman who had smiled at me like an aunt, laughed with my mother, visited our house, and I realized she had been dying inside all along. Mama stepped forward, her voice low but steady. "Caroline, you were my sister in friendship. If only you had spoken, if only you had healed your heart, maybe none of this would have happened." Caroline collapsed into fresh sobs. I wiped my eyes quietly. Strange enough, there was no hatred left in me. Only pity. "I forgive you," I said softly. Caroline froze, lifting her wet eyes to me in disbelief. "I forgive you. But I pray you find peace, true peace. Because until you heal inside, you will keep destroying yourself." Mama nodded slowly, tears filling her own eyes. She hugged me tightly, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely safe. Caroline slowly got up from the floor, supported by Mama's gentle hand. There was no more anger. Only sadness, and a tiny hope that maybe one day, she could find a new beginning for herself. A few months later, life returned to normal. The scars Caroline left behind slowly healed. I found joy again, real joy that came not from how people looked at me, but from who I was inside. Mama often sat with me on the porch at sunset, sharing her quiet wisdom. One evening, as we watched the orange sky, she said gently, "Isabella, remember, the heart is the most beautiful part of a person. Protect it. Heal it when it's broken. Because when the heart is sick, even the prettiest face can turn dark. But when the heart is full of love, even scars become beautiful." I smiled, leaning my head against her shoulder, feeling a peace I hadn't known in a long, long time. And for the first time, truly, I was free.